Wonderful morning to you and welcome to Dawn on VOSTV. My name is OMORUY, and as usual I'm with the beautiful Leonard. Good morning, darling.
Good morning, Pearl. How are you?
I'm fine. And we have a very significant topic on the table as regards marriage and it's court marriage. So I have someone who is in the legal field, a legal luminary, who actually give us more insight about this court marriage. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, thank you for having me.
And sir, can the guest meet you, your name?
Okay, my LEONARD UWAGIE. I'm a private legal practitioner in Benin City, Edo State.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so like I mentioned, legal marriage or court marriage. What is the significance of the court marriage against the white or the traditional marriage?
Okay, well, I think I understand what you're trying to say. There is nothing like court marriage.
Okay.
Yeah, there's nothing like court marriage. What we have, there are three marriages that are recognized within legal jurisprudence.
Okay.
Which are first, marriage under the Marriage Act or the Matrimonial Causes Act, which is usually called marriage under the Acts. I think that's what people refer to as court marriage.
Yes.
Then you have the customary marriage. That's marriage under native land custom. Then you have the Islamic marriage. These are the three marriages that are recognized here in this country. And they are all valid marriages.
Okay.
Yes. If you marry under the Act, marriage under the Act is marriage contracted within the purview of the Marriage Act, which is a borrowed legislation from the British. It's we call it the received English law, which is a law of general application in Nigeria here. Some writers or legal jurisprudence have it that marriage under the Act is just like the native land custom of the British. Like you have the marriage, our native land custom marriages here. So you have the native land custom marriage in Britain, but it's codified. What I mean is codified that it is in a written law. And so, because by virtue of the fact that they brought their laws during colonization, those laws applied to us by virtue of Nigeria being under the colonial rule of Britain. So these are the three marriages. Marriage under the Act is celebrated at what we call the marriage registry. And under legal jurisprudence, under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the local governments are given the statutory rights and powers to celebrate marriages.
Only the local government?
Local governments. But I'm quick to say too that there has also been this contest as to whether the Ministry of Interior can also celebrate marriages. But the court in recent times, as far as I know, the recent judgment interpreted the legislations that the Ministry of Interior was relying on and the one that the local governments were relying on. The court tilted towards that gives power to the local government. In essence, the current state of the law as of today is that it is a local government that has the statutory powers to celebrate marriages. And that is why you have, that is the current state of the law now, which, because it's a judgment, the most recent judgment, and it's subject to appeal. I understand that the Ministry of Interior has challenged that decision at the appellate court. But what is the current state of the law? That is the current state of the law until that judgment is set aside or reviewed. So what we have today is that the local government are the ones that can celebrate marriages. Then the way it is done, it's also, they also have the powers to grant or create marriage celebration centers, which when you hear church marriage, there's nothing like church marriage. What happens is that the local government gives licenses to churches for them to be able to celebrate marriages in those churches. So churches that have the license from the local government to celebrate marriages, they celebrate marriages in those churches. But it's the local government that gives them the forms, what we call the marriage certificates, and you know, there are processes, there are procedures. The intention to get married and all of that, those forms are filled. It's a local government that's when you have been given license to have the powers to celebrate marriages, they give you those certificates to issue. They come, I think, in triplicate forms. You give the original to those who have celebrated the marriage. One is kept by the center or the church that is celebrating, but then for return purposes, you file your returns and send back to the local government to say, this booklet that you have given me, so far I've conducted 10 marriages, you gave me 10 leaves in the booklet, and this is the marriages we celebrated. These are the copies, the triplicate copies, and you know, they'll just file their returns. That's the way it works.
When I talked about the registry, marriage is done. There's no court wedding where marriage is done
Under the act.
And then they said they're going to call church wedding. So let's just talk about the white weddings. The certificates issued to couples during the church or white wedding, and certificates issued by marriage done under the act. Is there any difference with these documents issued to these couples? Like, does one outweigh the other, or for persons who get married under the act, should they still get married under these church white marriages, or the persons who are just doing the white wedding, should they still conduct or do a marriage under this act? Do you know what I'm talking about?
It's not white wedding. It's called marriage under the act. You call it white wedding because it's fashioned after the British.
Yes.
And this, what you call the white wedding, is codified in our laws. There's a statute. There's a law that provides for it. The ordinary man on the street can call it white wedding. And I think one of the reasons for this program is to enlighten people so that the right nomenclature, or the right adjective to qualify such marriages should be put properly in the context it is. So when you say white wedding, I think this program, like I said, is to enlighten people. It's not white wedding, it's marriage under the act. Then when you say church marriage, because there is no law that recognizes church marriage, it is just what you people just term it. But it has no legal consequences. It's of no value. It is not something that is recognized by law. What you have is that churches that have the licenses to celebrate marriages have these certificates to issue after going through their ceremonies in church. What they sign is the marriage certificate for churches that have the license to celebrate marriages. There are churches that don't have licenses to celebrate marriage. They still celebrate marriages. They conduct weddings. But they are not known to law. Those marriages are not known to law.
So, sir, what are the rights and privileges of actually celebrating under the act? For the couples, I won't say gender now, but what are the privileges and the rights?
Okay. Firstly, let me just try and summarize how this marriage is.
Okay.
Like I said, there are churches that celebrate or conduct marriages that are not licensed to do so.
Okay.
What the issue is not known to law. Not known to law. So it is only relevant to the church.
Okay.
But it is not something that can be relied on for any kind of enforcement of rights that pertains to marriages.
Oh.
For instance, under the native land custom, there are rights and privileges that comes with marriages. You know, for instance, in so many, you know, it varies, so it's not codified.
Okay.
However, these are customs that have been there from time immemorial. So, the rights and privileges, the tenets, all that concerns it are known by all. So, even if it's not codified, for instance, in Benin, under the Benin native land custom, there's what you call the dowry,
Yes, the bride price.
the bride price that is paid. Then there is also a process that the woman is handed over to the man.
Yes.
These are things that have been there from time immemorial. If these things are absent in a marriage conducted under the Benin native land custom, no marriage has been conducted. No marriage has been conducted because these are the things that makes up the marriage under the Benin native land custom. So you have in other customs, they have their own what constitutes marriage. You have items that are brought to the families under the Igbo. There are things you need to do. If those things are not done conclusively, then no marriage has been conducted. Or at best you say it's inchoate. It's still in the process. It's not being consummated. It's still in the process of being done. Then, under the Act, okay, one of the privileges I can quickly say, because like I said, I can't know all the rights and privileges or what comes along with various ethnic groups. But I can say a few within our jurisdiction here. Under Benin native land custom, it is the man that owns children.
Okay.
The man owns the children.
So I bear children for a man, so no matter what, they all belong to him.
They belong to
bearing his name.
Yes, the man owns the children. If you look at why I said that, I said it because it is one of the issues that is often under contestation in courts under marriage under the Act. Okay. It's one of the issues. So that's why I just pointed that out.
So the child custody naturally, according to the native
land. Other native land custody is the man that owns the children.
Even if he's
he
not
decides
able to take care of the children.
Yeah, he has the decision to make as to because the kids are quite young, and I do not want to have, when I marry another wife, I don't want these children to be maltreated. Keep the children. I'll take care of their needs. Okay. But he owns the children. No woman can say, I want to come and take custody of the children. It's not the right. Okay. But it's something that can be negotiated by the man. He can alienate it. He can say, I want that done. Okay. But it's not a right that you can contest. It is a right that is accorded a man. Okay. Then, under the Benin native land custom, you can marry as many wives as you want to. Okay. Like many other customs in the world. I think you just have a few of those customs that advocates monogamy. And that's the custom of the British. which is also codified in their laws under the Marriage Act, that it is a monogamous marriage.
Okay.
You cannot marry
More than one.
more than a wife.
Yes, very
You
good.
cannot have more than one subsisting marriage in that union.
Okay.
Except, of course, if one of the parties to the marriage contract dies, or there is a divorce, there's a separate, that kind of thing. So, but under the Benin native, under the most of our native law custom, you can marry more than a wife.
Yes.
Then, as to the issue of dissolution of marriage, it is usually not as cumbersome as marriage under the Act. What constitutes marriage under Benin native land? So we are not discussing just Benin native land, because I'm just using it as a reference. Is that the dowry is the most fundamental of all the processes and procedures that consummates or that makes up marriage. So under the Benin native land custom, once the dowry is returned back to
the bride's family,
the marriage ceases to exist. Yes. Because that is the bond. Once the woman says, I'm no longer interested, calls his family, they say, please, they return the price back to the man, to the husband. The marriage ceases. But we still find situations where people have to go to the customary courts to dissolve marriage. For me, my understanding of the law, those are for surplusages or for documentation purposes. Not that you must go to court to dissolve a marriage under native land custom. But that is not the case with marriage under the Act.
okay,
Which, for this purpose, the presenter, your co-presenter here, seems to
have interest
alternate or call white wedding.
So I use
or
white wedding in quotes because
yeah.
let's say somebody, if you are watching this, cannot really differentiate. Yes, the marriage under the Act and yes, the customary marriage. So that's why I said the white
Wedding. Okay,
because
good.
you have a lot of persons. Okay, this is the traditional.
So
marriage
under
or white wedding.
So under marriage under the Act, there are a lot of, it's more, it seems to protect the woman
Yeah, that's nice.
when you talk about marriage under the Act. That's my own view.
Okay.
Other persons may have different views, but that's my view. I won't take the time to look at many of the provisions. For instance, when you talk about dissolution of the marriage, what you call divorce,
Yes.
the woman is entitled to certain maintenance. Yes. During the period of dissolution, that is negotiated. That look, upon dissolution of this marriage, I should be entitled to upkeep. I need this to be able to pay my house rent. I need this to be able to feed. I need this for the kids.
But
I
they're
need
not
this
got
for that.
together, so why should I still be paying your bills?
But that's the law. That's the law.
And it's fully practiced in Nigeria.
It's the law. It's not a matter of practice. It's the law.
You know,
Of course, there are marriages most of the time when you get to that point of dissolution. It's usually, in most occasions, marriages are not severed under a friendly atmosphere. It's usually severed under hostile atmosphere. And sometimes too, under an atmosphere where the woman also tries to keep her ego. But I have done cases with particular reference to one where she demanded, even for a vehicle, she demanded for upkeep to some, I can't remember the figure now, some millions of naira. But at the end of the day, we also made our own counter demands. So we eventually arrived at at a compromise where my client said, this is the amount you'll be providing for upkeep with particular reference to the children's education, feeding, healthcare, clothing, and all of that.
Okay, sir, sorry to cut you short. It means she actually enjoyed these privileges when she bears a child for the man. So, for example, there's a dissolution to the marriage or divorce, and she doesn't have a child, so she's not entitled.
She is so entitled to maintenance.
Okay.
What do people call there's what they call money you give to the child. It's called alimony. Okay. What you give to the woman for maintenance.
Okay.
Because she has to eat, she has to live under a shelter, she has to, for general upkeep. So she makes that demand. So some would, I don't want to be bored with monthly this and monthly that. I've seen a situation where the man is late now. He settled the wife with $1 million in cash. I said, I don't want.
In Nigeria?
In Nigeria.
So that woman, the person cannot come back to say or request.
No, because that's what they agreed on. I don't want to be bugged with monthly allowance. I don't want to know anything about you again.
Settle for life.
You take this and be settled. And it's agreed on, it's make the judgment of the court. And the woman was settled with $1 million. And that ended the road as to any ties between them. It didn't stop the man from taking care of his kids, because I think the woman also had some kids for him. I won't be able to say much about Islamic marriage, but the few I can say about Islamic marriage is that it also allows for polygamy. I think the only marriage of these 3 marriages that restricts number of wives or women is that of marriage under the Act. Every other of the marriages, it is not compulsory. It doesn't say you must marry more than a wife, but it allows if you want to, but it's not a compulsion. So marriage under the Act, before you can dissolve it, there are processes. There are conditions to be met, without which you cannot. It's not as easy as that of marriage under native land custom, where you just throw the dowry back to the husband, or where the man demands for the dowry. But under the marriage under the Act, it's not that easy. You have to go through the processes of the courts. And we've seen situations where some persons say, oh, they married in church, and they define the marriage as one that enjoys the status of marriage under the Act. And they rush to courts, and by the time they file their processes, you realize that the certificate that they front load, which forms the basis upon which they claim they want to dissolve the marriage, is not known to law. So, in the eyes of the law, if that is the only marriage you contracted under the church, and the church is not licensed to celebrate marriage, they just give us certificates of their own that they design on their own, it means you don't have a valid marriage. You don't have a marriage in the eyes of the law. You have been cohabiting, that's it. But here, it's often the case, I've rarely seen where you don't do the marriage under customary law. They always do that. So after the marriage under native law and custom, and they go to the church for another one, then if that church is not licensed to celebrate marriage, of course, they're still in marriage.
Yes,
because we now. So, but let me also quickly say this. Here, what we do here is, marriage under the Act. You go to the registry. I know, firstly, you do the native land custom.
Yes.
And
okay, it must
Friday.
be done before you go to the registry.
No. You don't need marriage under native land custom. They are 2 separate marriages.
Okay, 2 separate marriages.
They have their status of their own. Yes. But we just do it as a means of surplusage, because, you see, our culture, the orientation still remains there.
Yes.
that before we get marriage that we know, you must seek the permission of the family.
Yes.
You must pay a
Certain-
price.
Yes.
That is what we know. So it still remains so. But people now still go ahead because they feel over time that after seeking the permission of the family and paying the dowry, then the next stage, which is wrong, is that you now go and marry under the act. By the time you marry under the act, the marriage under native law and custom ceases to be. Yes, because it takes preeminence.
Wow, it supersedes the...
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. The moment after marriage under native law and custom, you go and marry under the act, which comes later. The law sees you as married under the act, not under native law and custom.
So what about persons that just they do the church wedding, the marriage under the act, the native law and custom?
And that's what I just tried to analyze for you now. That's marriage under the act. After it, some like you said, after they do the native land, let's just take it in this scenario. Native land custom is on Friday.
Yes.
On Saturday, they go to registry.
Yes.
Do what we call the court marriage. No marriage is actually celebrated in court. Why they call it court marriage? Because before you dissolve it, you have to go to court.
Okay.
So that's why they call it court marriage. Then after that marriage registry on Saturday, on Sunday, they go to church. The one they go to church, that is not licensed to celebrate marriages, is of no moment. In any case, you can't marry twice without dissolving the first one.
But
so if no, you can't marry. You have to dissolve. In this case,
it's the same partner, so we're doing a repeated pattern.
Before it becomes even an offense, if you marry under the act while a marriage is still subsisting, you go and marry again.
Some call it insurance.
No, you don't. Let me explain it. Once you marry under the act, it is not expected, except by mistake, after marrying under the act, a church that has the license to celebrate marriage will still give you another certificate. It's not done. If one that no, you can call it blessing number, but they can't issue you that marriage certificate that is recognized by law. They can't reissue you. If they do that, then it was done in error. And that last one that was done, because they are the same couple, it will be invalid. And because it has been executed, you need to go to court to set it aside and say you married the same person twice by error. The court will have to set aside the last one that was done because there was a subsisting marriage. No, most of the times it is the marriages they do in church are not recognized marriages.
Can I ask, how will persons know that the license or the certificate issued by these churches are not really valid? They are not recognized.
The one that because there's a process. You first of all, they'll give you. You don't just go to church that day and say you want to get married. There's an intention to marry. There is this notice to the world that you want to marry. They'll give you that first. After which, you now get to that stage of marriage. The form, the marriage certificate itself, which I call the form. I've forgotten the form. It is called now form something. It's very distinct from what the churches give. The one that is there, you will see the local government on it. It's usually long, using the one for Oredo or in those states here. You will see it is long. I think the color is like light green, if I'm not mistaken now. No church name is on it. It could only be said that this marriage was celebrated in so place, written in Biro. But you see, most of the ones they give in churches, you will see that it's already a printed certificate.
Yes.
They now write their names on it. No. And the name of the churches are usually on it. Like a letterhead form. Those ones are not marriage. There are no marriage certificates that are recognized by
So
law.
it's like the church is just trying to say, okay, oh,
This is our own certificate. You are married here, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah. I know of organizations who are not big organizations who are not licensed to celebrate marriages, but they conduct marriages, and they issue them their own certificates. Those certificates are not valid in law. But to the church, you married here, and this is the certificate we issued. It is not been criminalized. It is not been outlawed that you can't celebrate marriages in places where
You wish to.
that has not been licensed to. I'm not aware of that. So hence it is done. But if you wish to contract under the Act, it has to be that.
Okay, so I have a question. Why is it that it has to be the female who goes to the registry to pay for the dates or whatever process for the wedding?
It's a choice. There's no mandatory. There's nothing mandatory.
Okay, my sisters are always the one going. My friends are always the one going. And
Because
like, husband,
and I'll tell you, I'd like my daughters to be married under the Act.
Of course, you're in the preliminary.
But in fairness, I don't like my sons to be married under the Act.
Because it doesn't favor them.
That's selfish.
Really?
I'm speaking from a selfish position.
Okay.
Selfish position because of the information that I have at my disposal concerning marriages under that. So it protects my daughters, but it can expose and stress my sons.
And the certificate is always been handed over to the...
Because it's usually, like I said, it protects the women. So they usually give so they usually will give
Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Like we did great justice in enlightening a lot of persons right now. What are the last words you have for the show? Right now we have to wrap up.
Well, just to say thanks for the opportunity you've given me to be able to say a few things that I know about marriages, and
give us proper advice.
Just to say that before you get married under the Act, you have to be very, very, very sure about the woman you're getting married to. You see, most of our parents are, old folks who understood, particularly the educated ones, they understood these things. Many of them didn't marry under the Act.
For safety purpose.
Yes, because they wanted, of course, to be very sure. You see, I know of many old men, educated. They married under the Act at their old age. They got to a certain stage, they were sure about their wives that have been with them for many years, to also protect the woman, particularly when it comes to inheritance.
Because the native land custom doesn't really protect them.
So they know this woman has been loyal, has been obedient, has been there for them. So you see a man who is about 70, 75 is going to church, is going to the registry to go and marry under the Act. Sometimes it's just a reward for your loyalty. Due respect to women.
You just give
so long as protecting the female folks, it's good.
Basically, just what works best for you. Thank you so much for watching. We had a lovely time with you, sir. And ensure you follow us across our social media platforms on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. We are VOSTV Nigeria. Till we'll see your lovely faces again. Bye for now.